Hey, this is Nico Mosery from Multifamily Inc. If you want to learn how to use your small axe to build your own personal empire, you should be listening to the Small Axe podcast with my good friend, Nico.
Hey guys, it's your boy Nico here from the Small Axe Podcast. I want to show you how to use your small axe to build a lasting empire. You see, not everybody begins their investing career with millions of dollars, a huge network of investors, or the knowledge necessary to become successful in this space, and that's okay. What I focus on here on this podcast is helping you hone your skills, sharpen your tools to become the best investor that you can be. Now, I want you to sit back, relax, and enjoy this show. If you have any questions or you want to reach out to me or the guest, feel free to do so. Love you guys. Hey, Small Axe community, Small Axe people, my favorite listeners, my audience, my beloved people out there. Today, I'm going to be sharing the platform with a good friend of mine. His name is Nizan Mosery. Really cool dude in the multifamily space and student housing space as well. He has done a lot, and he also provides coaching. We're going to hear about all of this. But before I introduce him, I'm going to have him come on and introduce himself. Nizan, welcome to the show.
Hey, Nico. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it. How are you?
I'm doing great, and I'm excited to have you on today as a guest. And I would love for you to take just a few minutes, if you wouldn't mind, to kind of tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your personal journey of how you got to where you are today, and then we'll step it forward.
Sure, absolutely. We'd love to. Thank you so much for that. Born and raised in New York City. I'm first generation American. Yeah, my family came from Israel. My mother is a Holocaust survivor. My father never kind of graduated the sixth grade. So, education for them was always in the forefront. They wanted me to go to school and get a college education. And, as any good Jewish parents, they wanted me to become a lawyer or a doctor. I said, definitely not becoming a doctor. I don't like the blood and all that stuff. Went to school, went to college in New York City. I never graduated because I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life back then. And at the age of 20, growing up in New York City in the 70s and 80s and a little bit of the 90s, pretty wild ride in New York City at the time. At the age of 25, my father passed away, and that kind of threw me for a downward spiral, not knowing what life was all about, not knowing what I wanted to do. And, it was the focus was always on money. Money. Go get the money. It's all about money. You'll be happy when you have money. Well, you know what? I mean, at the age of 25, 26, 27, I was, thank God I was doing well for myself, and I was working with my family. We had clothing stores in the city. I was working for different companies. We had a renovation and restoration company as well, doing all kinds of things. And money was not an option. It was not an issue. So I didn't understand why, what was life all about if we already had that and I wasn't happy. I thought having money would make me happy. And then, like I said, my father passed away, and that kind of, I went out and started partying heavily, even more than I was, and just lost the meaning of it. And when I was 27 years old, I decided to pack up my bags and move back to Israel. Sat on the beach for about a year, not knowing what I wanted to do. I was contemplating my belly button from all different directions. And then one day, a friend of mine told me that he was going to India for 2 months to travel and whatnot. And I said, you know what? Tel Aviv, India, the beach is a beach, water is the water. You know what? I'll go with you. I've never been there before. I love Indian food. Let's go. And going to India and traveling there, I stayed there for almost a year, and I continued my travels all around the world for 7 years. Met my wife in Portugal while traveling there, and we settled back in Israel. And that travel really solidified who I was for myself. I kind of was always, people ask me, well, what are you doing on your travels? What's the reason for your travel? I'm like, well, you know what? I'm looking for myself. I'm trying to find myself. I'm trying to find who I am and whatnot. And then I realized that I was always standing in front of myself. I just had to look closely in the mirror to figure out who I was and what I wanted. And getting smacked around by the universe a couple of times with losing all my stuff and being homeless several times, and during my travels, not having any money, trying to figure out where I was going to get money from. It really teaches you about who you are and what's important in life, and seeing all the different, seeing all the poverty And just knowing, there are people that have less than nothing, if you can imagine what that is. And when you talk to some of these people and they're grateful for what they have when they still have nothing, and it really changed me. It showed me what was important in life. And then in 2009, so I went back to Israel, brought my wife over from Europe, and we settled in Israel, back in Israel. I opened up the first raw vegan restaurant in Israel. It was doing really, really well. Then I got into a bad car accident that broke my hip. And then, when the owner's not at the restaurant, food goes to crap, service goes to crap. So, that kind of dwindled out. And then in 2009, we moved to Florida from Israel. We came all the way to Boca, and I started flipping houses and doing things of that nature, and saw that it was finite, because there were only so many foreclosures, and then so many people were coming into the industry. And, the person who was bagging my food at the supermarket was now flipping houses. And then, the person that was doing my wife's nail was getting into real estate. When you see all of that, it's time to kind of shift and adjust. And being very, very lazy that I am, I didn't want to continue flipping houses and doing all the work. I wanted to figure out how to buy something that would keep paying me over and over again. And that's how I got into rental units. I started renting out single family homes. That's great. Everybody starts there. A lot of people start at the single family home because that's what we know. It's easy and whatnot. But, if your tenant doesn't pay you 1 month, then you're out of pocket, right? You got to come out of pocket. And in a single family home, if you're not, how much money are you really netting after all of your expenses, right? A couple of $100 a month. So if you have a big issue, a roof leak, or you got you got plumbing issues, you got concrete and all that, there goes your profit for the year. I had that issue with one of my houses here in Delray that I still have, where the tenant came and is like, "Hey man, I got stuff coming up the pipes from the bathtub, the toilet, and whatnot. I brought a plumber. They had to cut the concrete. They had to dig, search this and all. That was $5,000, and that was the entire profit for the year. Yeah. So now I'm sitting there praying, hoping that nothing else happens for another year to the house, so I can at least recoup my money. So I learned that, single family is okay. It's nice, but I'd rather have the security of having multiple people pay rent, so that if, one doesn't pay, I have, 10 more, 100 more people paying. So, it mitigates that risk and whatnot. So I started learning. I got myself a coach and a mentor. I've had mentors and coaches for big part of my life. And so I found someone who had what I wanted, and I was doing what they were doing. I learned from them, and slowly, I started buying more multifamily, bigger projects. And now I've got an incredible team that we're out there, and we're buying Class A multifamily and student housing. Somebody on my team, he's been in student housing for 25 years, 25,000 unique beds, managed Blackstone's, $1 billion portfolio for them. So he knows the industry. I come from multifamily. So we partnered up together to take both niches of multifamily and student housing and really run with them. And we closed on a $21.5 million property, 1-year-old, brand new, in December. And now we're pushing rents, around average of $400 across the board on student housing. So it's been an incredible ride, and I'm very, very grateful. And knowing what I know now, I wish I would have known that, or had someone back 10, 15 years ago to take me by the hand. It would have flattened my learning curve, flattened my, all the time that it took me to reach success and all that. So I created my coaching program to help newbie investors who struggle to get into their first investment property because they think they have to use their own money, their own credit, and their own track record. So I created this program to help those people get into their first property, because I truly believe that we're put on this earth to experience life and all its greatness, and not to be stuck behind a desk worrying every single day, how am I going to pay my electric bill? How am I going to pay my mortgage? That's not why we were put on this planet, right? And so many people live by default. They're born into a family, they're raised in this family, they have the same mindset as their parents, and they're like, well, this is what I was doing, this is what I've been brought up in, so I guess this is where I have to be. And no, it's not. Especially in this country that we live in, you can do and become whatever it is you set your mind to. And that's why I created my coaching program, so that I can help these people go out there and be the best that they can be, and give back to community and to society, and to really make a difference in who we are and what we do. So that's a quick 10-minute gist about me.
Nizan, hey, this is awesome, and I'm really excited to hear all of this information. What a wild journey you have. And with all that experience comes knowledge and education that you're now, reinvesting in other people and giving to other people. I think that this is a phenomenal way to live life. And I as well hope to be on your end of it, where I've done enough deals to where I'm going to be taking people under my wing. And I started like a mini coaching program, just pro bono, just to try it out. And I just don't have enough time to continue doing that, but it was great. I did a 6-week session, and I got a lot of good feedback. So let's talk a little bit about where you focus your properties first, and then we'll dive into a little bit more of the coaching program. So where do you do you have certain markets that you look at?
Sure. And with multifamily, it's a little different with multifamily and student housing. With multifamily, we're looking at strong growth markets. We're looking, the holy grail is job growth, right? So we look for not political. I'm not going to be. It's not a political thing. It's more of a logistical and regulations. But we like to invest in red states, and the reason why is because if your tenant doesn't pay 30 days, you evict, you're out, right? In blue states, coming from New York City, I've had tenants in New York as well. I've had tenants that didn't pay rent for 2 years, and I got to flip the bill, and I got to pay the mortgage, and I got to do all that. And then I had to pay them to, cash for keys to get out. So the system doesn't work for me as a landlord to invest in those states. We go into states where the laws back the landlord, so that we can, because with us as a landlord, it's our business. Our business is providing quality residential places for people to live. So we got to work together with our residents. They got to pay us, and we got to give them a quality place to live. And that's why we go out and into the red states, so that as a landlord, I can help all the other tenants on my property. If one doesn't pay, then we can get them out. We can bring somebody else, keep that income in, so that we can make our properties nice and continue to have pride of ownership. So we go into those strong growth markets that have job growth, that have, certain specific criteria, MSA, Metropolitan Statistical Area, of minimum of 100,000 people, so that when we go to sell, we've got institutional buyers also looking in that market. We want markets that have big box retail coming in, Amazon facilities, Target, Marshalls, Home Depot, Lowe's, Starbucks, all these big companies. They spend millions of dollars researching demographics, income, right? All of that growth. Home Depot doesn't want to open up a store in a place where people are moving out of. They want to open up a place where people are moving to, so that they can buy the wood and the drywall and the nails to renovate, to build, to develop. That's where they want to go. So if they're opening there, guess what? I want to be there. Mm-hmm. And then we want to know what's the path of progress in that city. Where is the city redeveloping? Where is it gentrifying? Where is the growth happening? You want to go in there and you want to start understanding that market like the back of your hand, right? We also look at market cycles. So while we're looking at job growth, we're also looking to see where that market is, where that city is on the market cycle. Is it going up? Is it peaked already, and now from there it's going down? A lot of places now, for example, in real time now, a lot of prices of home ownership, houses are going down a little bit because people just can't afford them, right? So when people can't afford housing, guess what they do? They rent.
Yep.
Right. So we capture that. So there's a lot of different criteria that we look for. Right now, we're focusing in the Sun Belt, right, from Texas all the way up through, Tennessee, Georgia, all the way up through northern part of Florida, up to the Carolinas. I just sold a 64-unit property in Charlotte. Sold that. We held that for 3 years. I sold it just 2 days ago. Sold another property in South Carolina. And the reason why I'm letting go of these properties is that they're C-class properties, right? Where we were pushing rents really, really high for the last couple of years. And now we're seeing that, maybe the market is going to soften. So rather than hold it on that downturn, we're going to sell it, let somebody else take care of it. And, hopefully they don't get stuck with it, but we don't want to be stuck with the property when the market's going down, because then you have to hold it for a lot longer until it comes back up. So, we started to sell off some of our Class C properties, but we're acquiring Class A. That's multifamily. In student housing, we're looking for universities that are growing, and top tier universities are growing by leaps and bounds. For example, the University of Arkansas, there's this thing called the Doug Flutie effect, right? When Doug Flutie was playing in his university and he was winning championships, that his school, the school that he played at for like 10 years after they win championships, the enrollment goes up, right? So you have to look at the athletic department. What are they doing in that school? Tier 1 universities, right? What's the freshman class doing? So for example, in the University of Arkansas, they're having a new basketball coach. I forget his name, but he's huge. I think he's coming from Kentucky or something like that. And he's going to take that college basketball team to the next 17 levels. Guess what's happening? Freshman class is exploding. 4,000 students this year. Next year, 8,000 students. Why? Because kids want to go to a school where the athletics are winning championships. They're winning games. They want to go and be part of that community. They don't want to stay at home anymore, right? People think, oh, kids are staying at home. They don't want to go back to college. Kids are going by the droves back to school. So we're going into these high-end tier 1 universities that also have in-state scholarships. High school kids that excel, that want to go to a state university, they'll get a scholarship to go to that university. So for example, in Florida, we have Bright Futures. In Georgia, there's the Hope Scholarship, right? So you go to high school, you get good grades, you can go to UGA, Georgia Tech, Georgia College, and you get scholarships. So the parents don't have to pay a lot of money in tuition. They can now pay a little bit more for their kids to stay in a better location, right? So that's kind of what we're looking for in universities as well.
Sounds awesome, man. Let's jump back a little bit to the A-class multifamily. Do you see, because I'm still in C-class and eventually I will graduate, but do you feel that it's a lot easier to manage, or what are the differences in your opinion, aside from like obviously the obvious? Well, actually, you can just share your thoughts, and I have mine.
So like I said, I cut my teeth on C-class properties and B-class properties and whatnot, buying them, throwing a ton of money at them, regentrifying the tenant base, right, and all that kind of stuff. It takes a lot of time, and what I've noticed is that you can never really hit your business plan when you're doing so much renovation, because when we're underwriting this, we're creating a business plan, but that business plan is on paper. Life is static. Life is flowing. Life is moving, right? So if we're analyzing a 100-unit property and we're projecting that, 20 people are going to renew, and now we have 50 people renewing, that just threw our business model off, right? In C-class properties, the demographics of the residents are very different than in A-class, right? And I saw this throughout COVID as well. While my C-class tenants, right, they were focusing, when they were getting their checks from the government, they were focusing on buying nails and shoes and extensions and all that. While my A-class residents were focusing on making sure that they pay rent, so that their credit can stay good, right? So there's different demographics and different ways of treating, not treating, but of behavior that you have to understand, that each asset class has different behaviors. Now, I'm not saying C-class properties, you can't make money on them. I made a lot of money on C-class properties, right? They're great because you're pushing that value. The reason why we're doing Class A now is, if I were to tell you, Nico, I'm going to sell you a 1975 Mercedes C-Class for $25,000. Or you can buy a 2024 Mercedes C-Class for $26,000. You're going to be like, dude, it's no brainer. I'll buy the 2024. It's only a little bit more expensive. Why? Yeah, well, okay, that's what's happening now. C-Class properties all the way up to A-class properties are trading very, very close to the same type of cap rates.
Mm-hmm.
We just bought a one-year-old property, 1-year-old baby infant at a 5.5 cap rate. It's unheard of.
Right.
C-class property I just sold for just under a 5 cap, a Section 8 property.
Wow.
How do you justify that? How do you, right? Now, so we're looking at these and going, okay, let's buy the C class. Let's buy the A class now because they're trading at the same cap rate as C class. There's still upside, but we don't have to do a lot of work in the upside. We don't have to turn over the tenant base. We don't have to do anything. We just look at the comparables and go, okay, you know, our comps are up here. We're down here. If we push it halfway between us and our comps and we're still making money, let's do it. We don't have to paint walls. We don't have to change cabinets. We don't have to do anything of that nature. It's just pushing rents.
And what about
that's why we're doing the A properties.
Yeah, and our delinquency is a lot lower.
Yes. Oh yeah. Much lower. Delinquencies are lower. Evictions are lower, right? And it's all that headache as well, right? You want your property manager focusing on managing the asset, making it better, not running after people for collections, right? You don't want that. And with student housing, what's the awesome thing about student housing? There's a lot of myths about student housing, right? So student housing, we got 12-month leases, not 9-month, 12-month leases. Parents are guarantors. So if the kid doesn't pay, if they break something, guess what? Guess who's getting a phone call? The kids, the kids' parents. A lot of our, and because we're at A-class properties, a lot of the athletes, star athletes, right, are living on our property. If they don't pay, guess what? Coach is getting a call. Hey man, you know what? 10 of your students, of your athletes are living on the property. Now we're not connected to the university. We have nothing to do with the university, which is very close. It's purpose-built properties, meaning that the property itself was built for student housing, but we're not connected to the university. However, when we're housing all these students who are athletes, our property manager knows the coaches, they have different events and whatnot. So we can call the coach and say, hey, you know what? Would you mind talking to your kids because they're not paying rent?
That's great.
Right? And then we can call the parents and all of that stuff. So student housing is the A-class properties, different demographics. It's easier to manage. They're still considered new within 10 years, right? You buy a 1970s product and 10 years from now, it's just going to be that much older. Mm-hmm. You buy a 4-year-old property and 10 years from now, it's still a new property.
Yep. I love it, Nizan. Thank you. I'm sorry, but I got to transition a little bit to talk a little bit about your coaching program, because I know my listeners are going to be interested for sure. So maybe we can kind of transition to that because I got to get out of here soon.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. So just to share with your audience, the end of this month, I'm having a 2-day event here in South Florida. It's going to be like no other event you've ever been to. We're going to walk on glass.
Oh,
that's mind over matter. Whatever you can put your mind to, whenever you're focusing, where you're putting your steps, that's where your mind goes, right? Where your focus goes, your thought goes, your actions go. So we're going to be walking on glass. We're going to be doing board breaking. We're going to be talking about networking, how to raise capital the right way, how to find the right deals in the right markets. How do I know that Sioux Falls in South Dakota is a great market to go into? How do we look at that? How do we analyze that? How do we analyze all of multifamily? We're going to talk about networking, as I mentioned, raising capital, mindset, how to envision ourselves, because it's not enough to just want to be successful. You know, the caterpillar that goes doesn't just want to, it doesn't know that it wants to be a butterfly, but it goes through this transformation. And then at the other end, it becomes this new thing. And the same thing with us. Your mindset and who you are, not judging who you are, but who you are today has gotten you where you are today. For you to become, for us to get to become more or to have more in life, we have to become more. We have to become the person that is ready to achieve or to welcome in that massive success. So it starts in the mind. So we're going to talk a lot about that during the 2-day event as well. I'm going to have speakers. We're going to talk about asset protection. We're going to talk about due diligence, the do's and don'ts. I've got a gentleman who has one of the largest inspection companies in Florida, if not in the country. He's going to be on my stage talking about the do's and don'ts of due diligence. We're going to be talking about cost segregation, right? And all that good stuff. So it's a 2-day event. My coaching program, I take you hand in hand. You get me. You know, a lot of these gurus, a lot of these other education companies, while they're great, they have a great program, and I know a lot of them out there. They're fantastic. The only difference between me and them is that when you call their office, you get somebody. You'll never talk to Grant Cardone unless you pay him $100,000. You'll never talk to, you know, these other bigger gurus unless you pay them $100,000. When you pick up the phone and you call me or you sign up with my coaching program, guess what? You get me all the way through your education until you get into your first property. And there are people out there that want to do house hacking. They want to buy a duplex, live in one, rent out the other so that can pay for their mortgage. I can show you how to do that and not come out of pocket. I had a client, a coaching client, who right before COVID, he bought a triplex. All right. He did exactly what I told him to do. He went out, he bought a triplex, he got a hard money lender, and then he got a private lender, paid for 100% of the property plus renovations, rented out the first floor, second and third floor. He was renovating it. COVID hit. He held it through COVID, rented it out the top two places, sold it, paid off all his debt because he tried real estate years and years ago by himself. Bought a house in 2008, 2009, market tanked. He lost his family and friends' money. He was embarrassed, all that stuff. He came to me. I showed him what to do. He sold that property. And guess what? He paid back all of his family and friends, all of the money that he'd owed them from that one deal. Oh, so imagine now you're sitting with me and I'm showing you how to do this, and you're buying a duplex, you're buying a 4-unit property, a 10-unit property, right? And you're raising capital from other people. Your credit score sucks, which is fine because I'm going to show you how to partner up with people. I can partner up with you. I can show you other people to partner up with to get into your first deal and to start building your track record and your cash flow. I have another coaching client out of Miami. She's working with me. She just now put a 27-unit property, which has a single tenant. It's triple net, which means that the tenant pays the taxes, insurance, and expenses on the property. So the income that she's getting is just net into her pocket. And when we take over that property, and I'm helping her, we were underwriting it, looking at it. I walked the property with her. I went to networking events to teach her how to network, raise capital, all of that stuff. So I take my coaching clients by the hand and we go all the way until you get into your first deal.
I love it.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome. How can people find that?
So you can go to multifamilyinc.com. That's multifamilyinc.com/events. And there you'll see my 2-day event. And if you want to get working with me, you can go to multifamilyinc.com. Again, that's multifamilyinc.com/application. Fill in the application. Because people work with me, I don't work with 100 people at a time. I work with a small group of people. We work together one-on-one, and then we do a group coaching calls all the way through. So you get me. So I need to make sure that the people that I'm working with fit a certain criteria, that you're coachable, that I'm going to hold you accountable, that you're going to do what I tell you to do, that you're going to be able to get out of your comfort zone and go do the homework that I'm telling you to do so that you can be successful. Right? Yeah. So fill out that application and reach out to me.
Beautiful, Nizan. I love it. I have to transition to my final question. So let's imagine it was 100 years from now. You have great-great-grandchildren and they wanted to write a book about you. What would you want them to title that book?
That's a great question. That is a great, great question. The Man Who Did.
Cool.
That kind of just, that just popped into my head.
Thank you, man. The Man Who Did. And you did a lot and you are doing a lot. So I'm sure by the time your life has ended, 100 years from now, there's going to be a lot to fill on those pages.
I hope so. That's the goal.
Yeah, Nizan, it's been a real honor and pleasure speaking with you today. I'm really excited to have my listeners hear about your story and your journey, as well as what you offer them, as well as your coaching program and this awesome 2-day event that's coming up at the end of May. This will be aired before that, so people will have the opportunity to jump on that as well. Just give the listeners your website again one more time so they can reach out to you.
Sure. It's www.multifamilyinc.com. multifamilyinc.com.
Nizan, thank you so much. And you have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Nico. Same. You too.
All right. Hey, Small Axe community. I would like to say thank you for listening to another episode of my podcast where we show you how to use your small axe to build a lasting empire. Now, if you liked what you heard, it would mean the world to me if you would subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. Also, if you want to get in touch with me, go to my website at smalaxecommunities.com. Book a call with me. And until the next episode, keep sharpening those axes.